question is around shame and illness. Why is shame of illness or disability or MS so painful? It's such an important question because it's not talked about. Shame is the thing that we all want to avoid, whether we're healthy or recovering from a cold. Here. This video will be short because the voice is not doesn't have a lot of longevity right now. What was I saying? So noticing even right now the conditioning around shame it's just so what's the word? Like it churns. It's like a bunch of little snakes slithering, always trying to find, slip in and out of awareness. Like they slip in to contract, but then they slip out so quickly because the shame itself is so unpleasant. It's painful. The feeling there's something wrong with me. Here, the experience of shame at its biggest was sheer nightmare, sheer terror. It lasted at that point in a traumatic health experience for months of just acute sheer, I'm living in a nightmare and the nightmare is me kind of shame. It's not your average, what hasn't been the experience here of the average run-of-the-mill shame, so I'm very familiar with shame. And even as I'm like answering this direct question and hosting it, there were some squigglings around, I don't even remember now, but some, oh, you should be different, you shouldn't be this, you should be that, or when you're talking, you should appear a certain way. Illness is a big no-no in our broader culture, particularly the one I live in, probably more so in other cultures, other countries, but I know also some countries I've been to, you'll see more disabled people on the beach with families, with little kids. They're not just isolated away in their homes, they're not excluded. I don't feel that from this culture. I feel that illness and disability is a problem to be solved, a death sentence to be reversed, right? The medical system wants us to be immortal, and if we're not, then we're failing and we're bad. Shame is the least talked about emotion in my experience with having a diagnosis and a long-term diagnosis that never goes away. People often say, feel better, it's so sad, I'm so angry for you, or you can fight this, or, and that's fine, and no one's doing anything wrong, but I'm just pointing to the fact that the shame here has, one, been the thing that's locked this person down at all from exploring the gifts of the disability. exploring the spirituality of it, the truth of it, a deeper truth of like the authenticity of it. What in falseness is stripped away. Or another way of saying that is, what does illness take away? That I thought was mine and never actually belonged to me. So there's the shame of talking about it, but then there's also the shame of seeing it. Of seeing bodies that don't work the way that other bodies work, or their own bodies used to work. Bodies that are limited, bodies that are malformed. I think that when people are uncomfortable seeing illness, it's really because it brings up their own feeling of shame. Probably first that they feel the shame for the other person. Almost like an embarrassment or pity. But I've done therapy work enough to know that what we project out onto other people comes from what we feel to be true about ourselves. Nobody wants to feel shame, so we push it away. What happens when we feel it? What happened here was total destruction of my world in a certain sense. Personal. What I thought I was, this person's world. And that probably is not gonna be heard in the way that it's felt here. But I don't know any other way of saying it. It's such a hot fire going into that shame. And I'm not intellectualizing that. It's actually going into the shame. And there's no words that are coming because it's so much of what it is. What it happens when we really feel it, and that is authenticity of feeling what's already here and allowing it to be without resistance or controlling or hiding from or numbing. The authenticity of shame at its greatest is transformative. It transforms in the same way that indulging shame and not putting the hand on the burner being unauthentic, and that's not a judgment. I'm not saying that I'm shaming people who are not opening up to their shame or something, because to go there is really there has to be a readiness and a willingness to kind of be destroyed by it. Because at that point, like, what it's pointing to is, it might be true. I can't speak for anyone else, but at the core here, with compassion and with kindness, the shame was pointing to something that this me, there is something wrong with this me. And there's something so right with it, but also it was pointing to the fact that trying to attach and be that me that was expected to be with a certain body and a certain lifespan and a certain development just wasn't right. That wasn't true. That wasn't me. There is no me. And that, like, really feeling that is terrifying. So I don't know how to talk about this in a way that's a gradual slope. It's not what I was looking for. It's not what I wanted. I never signed up for MS or some spiritual quest. And it's a gift. And indulging the shame, I'll just say it like that, is the biggest reason why the gifts of disability are not seen. And I would wager that more people who talk about these sorts of things may not have explored their own feelings of shame around illness in the body, because it's pretty rare in my experience that I see anyone authentically go there and talk there, even people who are suffering from illness, and even the most spiritual gurus. And it's interesting, in this moment there is actually no shame around the cold that's here, the flare-up that's here, and there's space for it. The shame certainly shows up around other things too, and doesn't always have to be this epic be-all end-all, but it can be. So the voice is ready to stop. And there's just a sense of, like, a lot of love right now for anyone who might be watching this. And maybe, I don't know why this is coming up, but maybe feeling shame overwhelmed by it. Maybe no one is, but if that is arising, like, I don't want to take that shame away from you. I want you to feel it. I don't want to take your suffering away from you. I want you to I don't want you to hurt, but I don't want to take your gifts away from you. Just a lot of love.